Hello my friends and welcome to what is most likely the hardest challenge in Subnautica I have ever attempted. This is Subnautica Deathrun Remade, a mod that, quote, turns Subnautica into a difficult roguelike experience that challenges you to use everything you know about the game to survive. In simple terms, this mod adds a bunch of elements into the game that make it considerably more difficult, and in some ways tedious, in order to test just how skilled you are at the game and how much you know about it and how much patience you have. Now, to give you a brief overview of some of the things it adds, we have poisonous atmosphere.
Are you choking?
This means you cannot breathe on the surface unless you either use a floating air pump or you have a special device that's only unlocked later. The nitrogen accumulation and decompression sickness, i.e. when surfacing you have to do it slowly so that the nitrogen buildup does not hurt you. We have the falling life pod, so your life pod can spawn randomly in a variety of locations and then it will sink to the bottom. We have a lethal quantum detonation when the Aurora explodes. Unless you're below a certain depth to take shelter, you will die from the explosion. The radioactive fallout is much increased. Radiation from the ship will also spread far and wide quickly. Oh, and diving too deep is also dangerous now because without a proper suit you will get crushed. But no worries, because the wildlife is also much more aggressive, so they will charge you from a friggin' mile away, and they also do increased damage. Oh, and did I mention we're playing by hardcore rules? So if you die, that's it. Run over. You have to start from the beginning. And the recipes for just about everything have been massively expanded, with the requirements being much higher. This is gonna be so much fun. So why don't you grab some popcorn, tuck in, because this is gonna be one heck of an episode, and let's see what we can do. Alright guys, let's frickin' do this. Start far from kelp. Okay, I don't know if that's good or bad. Oh, and we're already sinking. That's great. It seems that... Oh, so you can't open it before the life pod hits the bottom. I'm just gonna take everything. I have no idea what I will need, but I presume a lot. We still have oxygen in here, which is good. What on earth is this start? Oh, wow. Let's farm. This is not an ideal spot to be. I also have to take note of the amount of nitrogen and how fast I am ascending. God, this is disorienting. What's the first thing to make? Okay, I reckon we will need a knife to begin. So I'll need some silicone rubber, but that is pretty far. Yeah, I don't think I can make it to a kelp forest. The surface air is not breathable, so I can't actually, surface and go that way. I have to be super careful, plus my oxygen is really friggin' low right now. Now, as long as I stay on about the same level, the nitrogen buildup should not become a problem. Okay, so I can make a scanner with these two. That's definitely a good choice. Might as well make it. Oh yeah, okay, so we don't start with a battery. That's lovely. Okay, what do I need for a battery? Man, I'm gonna need some mushrooms. Might as well exit both ways so that I have them unlocked already. Okay, so let's hope this gives us copper. Jesus Christ, I have so little oxygen, man. Oh my god, this is stressful. Is my life pod even regenerating power? Oh crap, okay, so we have to be able to fix it real quick for it to start regenerating power. Oh god, I'm gonna need cave sulfur. How the heck am I gonna get... Oh, it is regenerating power, it's just super slow. Why did I sign up for this? Okay, now these batteries, they only give us 75 charge, not the usual 100, but it's better than nothing. I need more oxygen, 100%, that is the next thing. 3 titanium. Okay, we can get that. I want to really be careful not to dive too deep and too steep, because I will have to swim that distance back up. Again, going down at this depth should be fine. At deeper depths, I will be getting crushed. But at this level, it should be okay. Alright, it's a voiceover bacon with you from now on. Now, I was feeling pretty good about things, and I started exploring the place with my scanner to gather a bunch of blueprints, such as the laser cutter. You might notice that these require a lot more scans than they normally would, and this is a common trend that will continue with everything. I managed to craft myself an O2 tank, which would massively help me with exploration. So far things weren't too bad. I was able to get enough food and water in the vicinity of my life pod to survive, but it certainly wasn't pleasant, knowing I couldn't surface or surface very fast. Because I wanted to be able to breathe on the surface, I made myself the pump and the pipes associated with it that would kind of allow me to bring some breathable air to just about any place as long as I had them on me. Also, the lack of power was really becoming annoying. I knew this life pod would need fixing fast. I decided to quickly go test out my new filtration system, but of course, I had to be very slow on the ascent because the nitrogen buildup was becoming a real problem, especially whenever going straight up. I also made myself a knife, and with my new equipment, I decided to go on a hunt. I would be hunting for what is probably one of the most hated creatures out there, the crash fish. And that's because I needed their cave sulfur. Now also, you might notice that I am still breathing on the surface, and that's because the surface poisoning only starts once the ship explodes. I never realized how difficult it actually is to find crash fish, but for some reason, the one time you're looking for them, they seem to all just vanish. But it's those times when you're not looking for them that they're suddenly around every corner. The pipe system was likely working fine, it was just a bit of a hassle to always, put it out and pick it back up, and this would become much more tedious later in the run. Finally, at last, I managed to find one crashfish plant, and with that, I got me some cave sulfur. Diving back to the life pod, I finally had a repair tool. You can also notice here that new things are crafted without a battery, so I had to reuse whatever batteries I had and unload and reload things. But with this, I was finally able to fix the life pod. This causes it to rotate back up. Unfortunately, not float to the surface, but at least I believe it will now generate power a bit faster. I quickly built myself a pair of fins to swim a bit quicker, and then I wanted to get me a high-capacity tank. That wasn't really too difficult, the materials were readily available everywhere, so before long, I had it. So far, things were going great. And then the dreaded message popped up. The drive core would explode in just over 8 minutes, and if I wasn't at least 100 meters deep, I would be toast. Luckily, the position in which my life pod landed was actually quite nice here, because I was right next to the entrance into the jelly shroom caves. These go way deeper than 100 meters, so I figured I would be safe in there. However, I would need to be able to stay at that depth all throughout the explosion, which would mean some more air would need to get pumped down there. I was gathering up a bunch of resources, enjoying the last few moments that I would be able to breathe on the surface. I was dodging the super annoying biter. I can really tell, by the way, that the aggression had been increased. And I built these pipes all the way down into kind of just past the lip of the entrance. I also found this shark inside of a life pod, which I guess that tells you what happened to the occupants. But at last, the explosion was here. With 12 seconds left, I dove nice and deep, and with my improved oxygen tanks, I was fairly confident I would be able to survive down here. Now, the explosion did push me all the way up against the wall, but luckily, I was safe. And I got the radiation suit unlocked, which is very good because I would be needing it stat. I slowly emerged back up, and this was kind of where it dawned on me that surface air would no longer be available for me. Now, I wanted to go deeper into the jelly shroom caves. The problem is, for some reason, it wasn't letting me build my pipes that deep. Because of how slow you have to ascend up, I wasn't actually able to really spend as long down there as I'd want, because it would take at least 3 times as long to go back up than it did to go down. You can also see that approaching the surface has now caused the unfortunate problem of radiation. Yep, that's right, without a radiation suit, I would no longer even be able to surface, which made my priorities pretty simple at this point. Built the friggin' suit. I built this pretty wild system of pipes that would help me get around the map without having to go closer to the surface, at least in the immediate vicinity of the life pod. Most importantly, to the nearest kelp forest, which would provide some of the materials needed for my radiation suit. I also scanned some more of the 12 required fragments for the Seamoth, that's just criminal by the way, and got myself the creepvine samples I needed. With that, I was finally able to get the radiation suit on, which would mean I would be able to move around the map freely, but of course, it still wouldn't let me breathe on the surface anyway. To test it out, I decided to swim up, and rest assured, I was able to stay on the surface, but as the message very clearly says, that wouldn't really help me much. From now on, wherever I would swim, I would always need to have the air pump and the pipes on me so that I could, take a breath of fresh air. I decided to try exploring this wreck a little bit, built the pipes down there, and set about scanning some stuff and collecting materials. I was getting harassed by some brain-damaged sharks, but overall, it didn't go too bad. I decided to try my luck again at the Jelly Shroom Cave because I specifically needed magnetite. Now, this trip proved to be very successful, as long as I stayed close to the entrance. With all of this farming, I was able to build the habitat builder, which would become very handy since I was getting really annoyed by the limited power reserves of the life pod. Here you can also see some of the absolutely insane crafting requirements, like to build a battery you need a freaking diamond, which okay, as if my Altera debt wasn't high enough, but fine. And at last, I set out to explore the map a little bit and to build myself a new home. I picked the edge of the kelp forest pretty close to the Aurora because I wanted to be basically in between a bunch of biomes. I would have the mountain islands to one side, kelp forest behind me, a bunch of grassy plateaus to my right, and then in front of me, I'd have the bulb zone and the mushroom forest. I hope you guys like this place because you're going to be seeing it a lot. This also begins the lovely trend of pipes absolutely bugging the heck out. Don't know why that happens. And with the help of one solar panel, I was able to actually get power to the base, which felt like a pretty big accomplishment. I finally had another place outside of the life pod where I could chill. I took the time to scan some of the Cyclops fragments. Good thing I don't need a billion of them. And then I set about building some of the basic stuff you would need for your habitat. You might also be noticing the ever-present radiation warning in the top right of my screen. Yeah, this is not really gonna go away anytime soon. As the radiation spreads, this entire area will soon be covered, and from that point it will just be constant Chernobyl filter. I went in to explore LifePod 3, got the blueprint for a compass, I was able to build me a fabricator, and another solar panel, which would help give me some more power to the base. And with a locker in place, things were looking pretty good. I named the locker Pipe, as you do, and then I set about exploring the kelp forest nearby a little bit and scanning a bunch of blueprints. I managed to unlock the mobile vehicle bay, which was a big step. Don't even get me started on the build requirements though. I also continued using a pretty smart strategy I adopted earlier, which was to always carry a spare oxygen tank that was full of air, and so if I ever started running out, I could just swap to it and get an extra 30 seconds. Now you can see I'm on the edge of the floating islands, and I also want to point out at this point that I was becoming quite scared to explore far from the safe areas because due to the heightened aggression, I've seen clips of people being charged by Reapers from freaking kilometers away. The Reaper just suddenly appears and it does not give up. I also managed to get me the laser cutter, which was super cool. And then I tried exploring this particular wreck. As per usual, exploring these is freaking scary. Even more so when you can't really surface as fast as you'd like. But I didn't find anything too crazy in there. By the way, if it appears to you that at this point you cannot see anything, trust me, it's the exact same for me. At night, with the constant radiation effect on, I could not see jack. It got to the point where I had to actually make the game quite a bit brighter later to be able to even move and function. Now here I was doing something probably quite stupid. I decided to go into the bulb zone because I would need some of the materials. And while I did make it down there, not only was I not finding nearly enough of the materials I needed, I was also in the constant danger of being attacked by amp eels. And of course drowning. And let me tell you, finding where exactly you left the air pipe in the middle of the night is freaking difficult. During the day I was able to explore the area a bit better, but it was still freakishly difficult and genuinely made me feel super on edge, like I was about to die any second. I also, somewhat foolishly, decided to try exploring this wreck, which is in the middle of the bulb zone. I was honestly pushing way below the depth I should be at this point. I was not nearly well enough equipped to be down here, but at least I got the exterior grow bed, which would definitely come in handy later. I also managed to get the blueprint for the lightweight high capacity tank, which sounds like it will come in handy. And after getting harassed by bone sharks, I decided to just dip out of there because the chance of me drowning inside was just becoming very, very high at this point. Here, I decided to actually go back to the shallows and gather up some simpler materials as well as get some fragments that I didn't get the first time around, such as trying to get the beacon. I managed to get the sea glide, which would come in super handy later. Not for ascending, mind you, but at least for moving around. Using the diamonds, I built myself a laser cutter, and I realized the crafting requirements for the Sea Glide were not actually too bad, so I could build it too. But to be able to effectively build some lithium batteries, I would need more diamonds, I would need more lithium, and these are resources that I couldn't really think of any better place to find that than the island, the mountain island to be more specific. So I went over there trying to stick as far away from that one place where the Reaper spawns as freaking possible. My butt cheeks were clenched to the max the whole time, especially hearing it roar in the distance. What was also quite annoying is that despite this being a normally fairly safe place on the surface, I still couldn't breathe out there, so I had to quickly sprint from one body of water to the next one inside. Diving down, I got myself a purple tablet, and the grind was actually going pretty well. I was able to use some of the brain corals down there to stay underwater for longer, and I was able to farm the shale outcrops down there for some good resources. You can't see it here because I started the recording too late, but a Reaper actually clipped partially through that wall in an attempt to get me from the other side of the island. I kind of just saw its tail coming back in. To say that didn't give me a lot of confidence would be a massive understatement. While on the island, I also decided to grab the other purple tablet, unlock the gun. Luckily, the air inside of the buildings was breathable, and I also got myself stabbed with a little alien needle, you know, just for good luck. But then it was back to my base, finally being able to craft a lithium battery, and using that, the lithium power cell, and combining that with a bunch of things, I had the mobile vehicle bay, which was honestly freaking awesome. I felt pretty proud of that. I deployed the mobile vehicle bay, proudly climbed onto it, realized I have no recipes available, and that was that. Now, to get the rest of the Seamoth blueprint parts, I swam toward the grassy plateaus and tried farming it there. This actually proved easier than I expected, especially using a pretty long system of pipes, and there it was. Oh yeah, I also explored Lifepod 6 here. Oh yeah, I also got myself a flashlight at this point just because I couldn't see at night due to that crazy radiation effect. I started farming for the Seamoth. That recipe is freaking massive. So massive even the Sea Emperor decided to show up. Hey, how's it going? And let me tell you, farming for it was most definitely not fun. Finding these freaking plants in the kelp forest took way longer than it realistically should have, but everything else was pretty okay since it was relatively close to where my base was, with the exception of the freaking ghost weed. This thing sucks. I was able to make a sea glide in the process, which was quite nice. Though of course it would burn through batteries like it was freaking nothing. But equipped with it, I swam back down into the bulb zone and tried to find the ghost weed there, since I knew around some edges of the biome they should spawn. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any, and this really wasn't an area where I wanted to spend a lot of time exploring. So there was only one place I could go, and that was the blood kelp zone. Staring down into the blood kelp trench made me very uneasy. I was very acutely aware that if I died, that's it for the run. But well, pipe time it is. Being down there 200 meters deep in the dark surrounded by hyper-aggressive warpers is not exactly my idea of a great holiday, but at least I got some uranium crystals, which is pretty cool. But alas, finally I found one, struck it with my knife, and off I went. Back at my mobile vehicle base, nothing else was stopping me. As you can see, I'm very excited. I put down all of these hard-earned resources and built my first Seamoth, which really felt like way more of a monumental achievement than it realistically is, at least in the vanilla game. Hopping into the Seamoth, obviously it doesn't come with a power cell, which is just great, but you know, at least it was there now. I farmed for a power cell, which was not exactly fun, but with it, the Seamoth would now be usable, which again felt super exciting, though for now I wouldn't exactly have many uses for it just yet. Now it was time to set off for the truly scary mission. I knew that what I really needed to do was to fix the Aurora. This would stop the crazy spread of radiation and would give me the tools I would need to make the surface air breathable again. I was also acutely aware that there are Reapers beside the Aurora, quite a few. So let me tell you that this is probably the most nervous I had been ever playing Subnautica, purely for the pressure of knowing that if I die, that's it, and I have to do all of these hours of grinding again. I managed to squeeze myself through the frame of the ship, staying as far away from the Reaper as possible. I didn't even see it, thank goodness. And then as I sprinted up toward the Aurora, I was really hoping that the inside would at least have breathable air, right? I mean, that's not a crazy assumption and hope to make, right? Newsflash, the air on the inside is not breathable. So, in a bit of a panic, getting irradiated to crap, I was trying my best to hop over some of the blockades there to make my way through. I actually failed this once. I literally had to run back out because my oxygen was just too low, jump into the water, get some air, and then run back up. Not a fun time, but I did eventually make it into water, and thank goodness I did, because it was in the very last nick of time. I made my way to the drive room using my repair tool and all the batteries I managed to pick up along the way. I was able to fix the 300 places where this engine was broken. I swear to God, they increased the number by like tenfold in this mod. The bleeders were as creepy as ever, but it wasn't too bad at this point. And at last, the air filtration system roared to life, and the drive room was fixed. This gave me the integrated filter chip, which after crafting would presumably let me breathe on the surface. While there, I also figured I might as well explore the other parts of the ship, so I made my way to the prawn bay to get as many prawn suit scans as I could. Unfortunately, unlike the base game, scanning all of the ones in here would not be enough to get me to complete the prawn suit blueprint, but it's a good start. I grabbed the most important thing, the Keep Calm Kitty poster, of course, and I made my way into the captain's quarters and got myself the download for the Neptune rocket. Now, of course, we would not be building this for a while longer, but I just didn't want to have to do another trip here. And with all that, I returned to my base, successfully avoiding the Reaper, built myself a bed, built some more lockers, hung up the kitty poster, and honestly, I'm feeling pretty good about the progress. And unfortunately, I will have to cut it off here, guys. This challenge has taken so much time and so much effort that I physically cannot fit it all into one video, or else I would have to have taken a break for like a month to get this done. So this is what it is. I've already progressed a bit further than what this video shows, but you will have to wait a bit longer for the second part. I'm hoping to be able to finish this in just 2 parts, but we'll see. It might stretch into 3 depending on how well it goes. With that said, I really hope you guys enjoyed. If you want to check out the mod, the link is of course down in the description, and if you liked the video, maybe consider leaving a like, commenting, or subscribing. All of those would be very much appreciated. With that, I'm gonna wish you legends a beautiful rest of the day, and I'll see you in whatever next video I make. Bye bye.